on finding your purpose. How do you find your purpose? And it starts with this whole idea of essence and existence.
Yeah.
And that dichotomy in philosophy is super interesting. What comes first, your existence or your essence? Do you have to discover your meaning, or do you have to invent your meaning?
Okay.
So the existentialists say that it doesn't exist and you have to invent it.
Yeah.
Right.
You have to make up a reason to get out of bed every morning.
Exactly. Yeah. But the Stoics would say it already existed and you got to find it.
Yeah.
Right. And Christians and the Jewish philosophers and the Muslims, everybody up until the existentialists, and the nihilists say there is no meaning, so stop trying. Yeah. Right. So Nietzsche would say that. Okay. So I'm lecturing on that, and a student really astutely says, well, so a modern thinker on this, of course, is Viktor Frankl.
Yes.
Who's all about finding meaning and purpose.
Yes.
And he quotes in his most famous book, Man's Search for Meaning, which everybody who listens to this podcast has read Man's Search for Meaning. Incredible book.
My aunt gave me that book when I graduated from high school, and it may be the greatest present that I've ever gotten.
Incredible, because it changes your life.
Yes.
And he starts that book by quoting Nietzsche. This is weird, right?
Yes.
I mean, the father of nihilism, at least as we understand it.
Yeah.
And he quotes it with this very famous quote from Nietzsche that says, "A man who understands his why can endure any how."
Yeah.
Right? Okay, and you think, and one of my students says, "Professor, what's the dealio?" I mean, it's like, so Viktor Frankl quotes Nietzsche to motivate his own work about looking for the why of your life. Why, to quote our friend Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But wasn't he a nihilist who didn't believe that there is a why? And I'm like, huh. So you go back and you look at it, and another one of my students, I said, I think it's got to be a misquote. It wasn't. It turns out that he says, "A man who understands his why can endure any how." And then he goes on to say, "No one cares about happiness except the English." It's just a weird aphorism.
Yeah.
He's clearly derisive about the idea.
Yeah.
He believes there isn't a why. But if you're going to be deluded enough to finding it, then you'll be able to get through life. That's his point. Yeah. And that's a very Nietzschean point. That's even more depressing, is the whole point. There is no why, but, knock yourself out, is what he's saying. Viktor Frankl says, I'll take that first part, just like Seneca. Right? So I'll take that first part, and I'm going to understand it non-ironically. And I do believe there is a why, and I am going to endure anyhow, and you're going to be able to as well. And he's saved millions of people from misery.
It's also, sometimes I think about nihilists, and I go, you sure worked really hard on this book that you wrote of this book of nihilism that you wrote. Do you know what I mean? Like, you still, you can't read Nietzsche and not see a person who really cares about what he's doing. He might be insane, especially towards the end, but he's slaving over each sentence. Yeah. He really feels like he has something he has to communicate.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? So some truth he has to get to, effectively the opposite of nihilism. Do you know what I mean?
It's pretty ironic, I know, and it just shows